Now, just a little warning here at the start that there will be some spoilers for the final episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian in this video, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it's a really good time to click away. Okay, so over the last day or so now since the premiere of that final episode, I've seen a lot of people debating and arguing over what is the deal with the Darksaber and how does it work exactly? What are the rules? Why could Sabine in the show Rebels just give it to Bo-Katan, and why could she take it then? But now here in The Mandalorian, Din Djarin can't just give it to her again. Is this some sort of continuity error, or is Rebels being retconned, or just what is the deal? And actually, the answer to all these questions is rather simple and given right in The Mandalorian when Moff Gideon says, "The Darksaber doesn't have power, the story does. Without that blade, she's a pretender to the throne." And what he means is that the Darksaber itself, though yes, a formidable weapon, it doesn't grant any actual power to the wielder. It in itself, wielding it, does not make you the leader of Mandalore. Instead, it's the people, or Mandalorians, believing in the symbol or integrity of the symbol that makes you leader when you possess it. And if that integrity or story is destroyed, or if you don't have a very good story in terms of how you attained it, then wielding it means nothing, and you're just a pretender. So Bo-Katan just taking it from Din Djarin after he defeats Moff Gideon, well, that's not a very good story. That's not the way you earn the Darksaber and get people to respect and follow you. And this is also more or less said and showcased in Rebels. When Sabine returns home and first presents the Darksaber, her mother scoffs at her and says it's just a symbol and it won't protect her. And it won't. None of her people, none of the Mandalorians will now suddenly follow Sabine just because she has it. Again, it in itself does not grant power. Now, if she had come home wielding the Darksaber in one hand and holding the decapitated head of Maul in the other with fresh blood dripping off her armor, and she told the story of how she had sought Maul out and defeated him in an effort to restore honor to Mandalore, well, that might get some attention. That's a story that sounds worthy of the Darksaber and the leadership of Mandalore. But instead, the truth is, Sabine didn't defeat Maul for it. She just picked it up off the ground in a cave, which makes the Darksaber currently just something that was picked up off the ground in a cave. Now sure, even in the show there's talk about what she could still do with the Darksaber, what it could still represent if she learned how to use it, and we see Fen Rao even encouraging her, and Kanan even trains her at one point. Which means, yeah, there is still obviously the potential there with the Darksaber to use it in a way or do something with it that once again makes it a symbol of leadership. And later on in the series, the first 2 episodes of Season 4 to be exact, and after a hard-fought victory over the Empire, one led by Bo-Katan, Sabine not only gives her the Darksaber, but does it in front of the other clans, and after they all said they would follow Bo-Katan, or basically pledged their allegiance to her, Sabine then says as she's handing it over that, "It came to me so I could pass it to you." And so all of this, though not as cool as killing somebody in combat to claim it, makes for a heck of a story and makes the Darksaber mean or represent something again. It's come back in this moment of needed unity among the clans and found its way into the hands of the person who can and is currently leading them and fighting for them. Not to mention, at this point, the last rightful owner of the Darksaber, who was Darth Maul, is dead. And Sabine would know that since Ezra knows it happened and obviously would have told her about it. And I know you might say, how is that any different than what just happened in The Mandalorian? This is also clearly a great time of need for the Mandalorians. And well, first of all, Din Djarin just handing it to her, basically saying, "I don't want this, you take it," that's not a great story. Nor, for Bo-Katan, is letting someone else kill Moff Gideon and then sort of reaping the rewards of it. There's no honor in someone else killing him and then her taking the Darksaber. We also have to keep in mind that she had the Darksaber before and lost it somehow, and we don't know the exact details behind that, but I think it's safe to assume that Moff Gideon was the one who led the Great Purge of Mandalore, and at some point took the Darksaber from her. Now, I doubt he defeated her in combat. He seems like a capable fighter, sure, but I don't think he's on her level. I could be wrong. That's just a guess. But I'd say if she was truly defeated by him in combat, then she herself would probably not think she's worthy to ever wield it again. Instead, my guess is she probably lost a battle, was captured, and then had it taken from her, which is kind of a disgraceful thing to have happened, especially considering we know the current state of Mandalore, or the Mandalorians, that it's bleak and dire after, well, pretty much Bo-Katan's failure. So basically, again, not knowing the details, She failed, and if she truly wants to reunite her people again, she knows she has to face and defeat Gideon, not have someone else do it for her, and to be just given the Darksaber. Again, it's the story, not just the weapon itself. And look, I'll be honest here, the first time I watched the episode I was confused and got hung up on the Darksaber itself, and completely missed what Gideon was trying to say. I was trying to justify what rule didn't allow Bo-Katan to take the Darksaber, but the reality is there are no rules when it comes to the Darksaber. There never has been or will be. Just look at its history, as told to us by Fen Rao in an episode of Rebels. It was created by Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi, over 1,000 years ago. After his death, the Jedi kept the weapon, but later on members of House Vizsla snuck in and liberated it. They took it from their ancient enemy, the Jedi. It was then used to unify the people of Mandalore and strike down those who would oppose them, and at one time they ruled all of Mandalore wielding the blade. Which, yup, all makes for a heck of a story. But one of the key things he says there is, at one time it was used to rule all of Mandalore. Meaning that since then, it hasn't always been wielded by the leader. At some point, maybe a long time ago, maybe more recently, it stopped necessarily symbolizing that. Meaning again, it in itself is not what makes you leader of Mandalore. Which is why Bo-Katan did not just take it from Din Djarin, because it wouldn't just make her the leader of Mandalore again. It'd only make her someone who took the Darksaber because someone else didn't want it and was trying to get rid of it. It'd make her a pretender, as Moff Gideon said. And furthermore, when Gideon said something like, why not kill him now and get it over with, he's just mocking her. He's not saying that's actually how she could rightfully attain the Darksaber from him and become ruler of Mandalore. He knows there's next to nothing she can do now to reclaim it. She's lost her chance to defeat the one who actually took it from her, and she can't get her honor back, and that's why she's so angry at Din Djarin. And do keep in mind here that in the past, even Bo-Katan herself has not respected the quote-unquote rule of if you kill the one who wields it, you become leader of Mandalore. When Maul killed Pre Vizsla in Clone Wars, she and several other Mandalorians refused to bow before him and to follow him. They didn't honor his ascension to the throne, if you will. They actively went on to fight against him even. So she knows and believes that it's a lot more than just killing the one who wields it that goes into being the rightful ruler of Mandalore. And sure, many actually, did follow Maul after he killed him because they saw defeating Pre Vizsla in combat and taking the Darksaber from him as proof of Maul's superiority, that he deserves to lead them and is stronger. So I'm not saying here that killing the current one wielding it isn't a good, arguably the best way to attain the Darksaber and become ruler. I'm just saying it's not the rule, and there are other ways to go about it. So all that said, does Din Djarin defeating Moff Gideon in combat now make him the rightful ruler of Mandalore? Well, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. The first being, I don't think he has any interest in ruling Mandalore, so he's not going to take up the title or anything. And I don't think anybody is going to proclaim him as ruler. We also, again, don't know exactly how Moff Gideon came by the Darksaber in the first place. Again, I highly doubt he defeated Bo-Katan in actual combat, so I don't think many Mandalorians would consider him to be the true leader, or used to be the true leader before he was defeated by Din Djarin. However, here, if it had been Bo-Katan indeed being the one to defeat Gideon in combat, I think that would have meant a lot more. It would have been her sort of restoring her honor, like I talked about before, and I think there's still a good chance after she previously failed her people that some still would not have respected her as leader again, but who knows. Either way here, I think if he wanted to, Din Djarin could make a pretty good case about being leader of Mandalore if he wanted to, which again, I don't think he has any interest in, though I still don't think everyone would just automatically follow him. There would be some outliers who wouldn't follow him. And the interesting part about him possessing the Darksaber now is what happens with it and Mandalore next. Will he find a way to get rid of it somehow, or find a way to give it to someone else worthy, like Bo-Katan still? Or will he eventually change his mind and have a story worthy of leading his people? I tend to think long term it will be the latter, but who knows. So in closing here, and I know some will argue with me about all of this, which is fine, I love a good Star Wars debate, but if you're trying to figure out what the rules are here, if you think it doesn't make sense that Bo-Katan can't take the Darksaber now when she could before, you're kind of missing the point of what the Darksaber is and represents. Again, it in itself is just a weapon. It grants no actual power, but it can, in the right hands, be a symbol of unity and strength. It's kind of like the opposite of Thor's hammer, where that can only be wielded by the right person and grants literal power. This, the Darksaber, can technically be wielded by anyone who picks it up, and it grants you nothing but a cool and very handy weapon, and any power it gives you comes from the belief of the people in you. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think about all this. Am I right about the Darksaber and what Gideon was trying to say, or am I all wrong here? Whatever you think, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.